Welcome to our series, Quotations to Inspire and Uplift, from Sri Aurobindo, the Mother, and Special Souls, Part 3, on the New World, from the Mother. A new world is born. All those who want to have a place in it must sincerely prepare themselves for it. 15 August 1957. Heralding the birth of a new world, we invite all those who want to have a place in it to prepare themselves sincerely for it. 15 August 1957, again. Last night, I had a vision of what the supramental world would be like if people were not sufficiently prepared. The confusion that now exists on earth is nothing in comparison with what might happen. Just imagine an extremely powerful will with the capacity to transform matter according to its liking. If the sense of collective unity did not grow in proportion to the growth of power, the resulting conflict would be even more acute and chaotic than all our material conflicts. 15 February 1958. To celebrate the birth of a transitory body can satisfy some faithful feelings. To satisfy the manifestation of the eternal consciousness can be done at every moment of the universal history. But to celebrate the advent of a new world, the supramental world, is a marvelous and exceptional privilege. The advent of a new world is an ineluctable fact, and whatever name is given to it, its victory is certain. Question. In your talk entitled The True Adventure, in the November 1957 issue of the Bulletin, you have said, "Last year, when I announced to you the manifestation of the supramental consciousness and light and force, I should have added that it was an event forerunner of the birth of a new world. This means that the new world was born after the supramental consciousness manifested. You have fixed the 29th February 1956 as the date of the supramental manifestation. Which date after that should be taken as the date of the birth of the new world?" Mother, half an hour later. All the rest is from the Mother. It is quite difficult to free oneself from old habits of being, and to be able to freely conceive of a new life, a new world. And naturally, the liberation begins on the highest planes of consciousness. It is easier for the mind or the intelligence to conceive of new things than for the vital being, for instance, to feel things in a new way. And it is still more difficult for the body to have a purely material perception of what a new world will be. Yet, this perception must precede the material transformation. First, one must feel very concretely the strangeness of the old things, their lack of relevance, if I may say so. One must have the feeling, even a material impression, that they are outdated, that they belong to a past which no longer has any purpose. For the old impressions one had of past things which have become historic, which have their interest from that point of view, and support the advance of the present and the future, this is still a movement that belongs to the old world. It is the old world that is unfolding with a past, a present, a future. But for the creation of a new world, there is, so to speak, only a continuity of transition which gives an appearance, an impression rather, the impression of two things still intermingled but almost disconnected, and that the things of the past no longer have the power or the strength to endure with whatever modifications in the new things. That other world is necessarily an absolutely new experience. One would have to go back to the time when there was a transition from the animal to the human creation to find a similar period. And at that time, the consciousness was not sufficiently mentalized to be able to observe, understand, feel intelligently. The passage must have been made in a completely obscure way. So what I am speaking about is absolutely new, unique in the terrestrial creation. It is something unprecedented, truly a perception or a sensation or an impression that is quite strange and new. After a silence, a disconnection, something which has overstayed its time and has only quite a subordinate force of existence, from something totally new, but still so young, so imperceptible, almost weak, so to say. It hasn't yet the power to impose and assert itself and to predominate, to take the place of the other. So there is a concomitance, but as I said, with a disconnection. That is, the connection between the two is missing. It is difficult to describe, but I am speaking to you about it because this is what I felt yesterday evening. I felt it so acutely that it made me look at certain things. And once I had seen them, I felt it would be interesting to tell you about them. This conception was expressed by Sri Aurobindo. I have expressed it myself many a time. And it could be formulated somewhat like this. The old spirituality was an escape from life into the divine reality, leaving the world just where it was, as it was. Whereas our new vision, on the contrary, is a divinization of life, a transformation of the material world into a divine world. This has been said, repeated, more or less understood. Indeed, it is the basic idea of what we want to do. But this could be a continuation with an improvement, a widening of the old world as it was. And so long as this is a conception up there in the field of thought, in fact, it is hardly more than that. But what has happened, the really new thing, is that a new world is born. Born, born. It is not the old one transforming itself. It is a new world which is born. And we are right in the midst of this period of transition, where the two are entangled, where the other still persists, all-powerful and entirely dominating the ordinary consciousness, but where the new one is quietly slipping in, still very modest, unnoticed to the extent that outwardly it doesn't disturb anything very much for the time being. And that in the consciousness of most people, it is even altogether imperceptible. And yet, it is working, growing, until it is strong enough to assert itself visibly.